Carnation Love Chapter 9. Lady Isabella's Scheme. Lady Isabella's frustration and desperation to see her brother, Prince Alastair, with Princess Ilara grew into an obsession that clouded her judgment. She felt that if she could not change the kingdom's decision, she would take matters into her own hands. Her actions took a darker turn as she hatched a devious plan to break up Princess Ilara and Leo. Isabella began pursuing Leo, showing him undue attention and feigned affection. She believed that if she could win Leo's heart, it would drive a wedge between him and the princess. Her intentions were hidden behind a facade of friendship, but her actions were filled with manipulation and deceit. Leo, unaware of Lady Isabella's ulterior motives, found himself the subject of her attention. He was kind-hearted and didn't want to hurt anyone, so he allowed her to spend time with him, thinking she was merely seeking a friend in her time of turmoil. As Isabella's pursuit of Leo continued, Princess Ilara became increasingly suspicious of her intentions. She couldn't ignore the change in her friend's behavior and the growing tension between Leo and herself. Her heart was filled with concern and unease as she observed the growing connection between Isabella and Leo. Isabella's actions, driven by jealousy and her inability to accept the kingdom's decision, brought further turmoil to the palace. The courtiers and servants began to notice the discord between the royal family and the growing tension within the court. The situation became increasingly complicated, as the fragile unity achieved after the kingdom's decision was now unraveling due to Isabella's devious plan. With emotions running high, the fate of Princess Ilara and Leo's love story hung in the balance. The kingdom of Viridian was once again facing a crisis, this time driven by a jealous sister's scheming. Chapter 10. A Dangerous Game. Lady Isabella's pursuit of Leo took a more reckless turn as her obsession with him deepened. One day, as she set out for a horseback ride, she noticed Leo tending to the flowers in the palace garden. Seeing an opportunity to gain his attention, she hatched a dangerous plan. Isabella knew that Leo was known for his kindness, and she counted on him coming to her aid in case of any trouble. As she rode her horse around the garden, she feigned clumsiness and purposefully fell from her horse, letting out a cry for help. Leo, hearing her cries, rushed to her side. Concerned for her safety, he helped her to her feet and inquired about her well-being. Isabella pretended to be shaken and flustered, all the while hoping that this would strengthen her bond with him. However, Princess Ilara, who had been observing from a distance, couldn't ignore the deliberate nature of Isabella's actions. She confronted Isabella, her heart heavy with disappointment, and said, "Isabella, your actions are putting not only our friendship but the stability of the kingdom at risk. You must stop this." Isabella, caught in her web of deceit and obsession, continued to deny any ill intent, claiming she was merely in need of assistance. The palace was filled with tension as Isabella's reckless actions threatened to undermine the peace and unity they had fought so hard to achieve. As the days passed, Leo found himself torn between his loyalty to Princess Ilara and his concern for Isabella's well-being. He had always been kind-hearted and was reluctant to suspect ulterior motives, but the growing tension in the palace was impossible to ignore. The kingdom of Viridian stood at a precipice, with Lady Isabella's dangerous game pushing the boundaries of love, loyalty, and deceit. The fate of Princess Ilara, Leo, and the entire royal family was now entwined with the choices they would make in the face of this brewing crisis. Chapter 11. A Dangerous Accusation. Lady Isabella's obsession with Leo and her determination to have him for herself had reached a disturbing point. Her selfishness and self-centered desires had blinded her to the consequences of her actions. Her schemes had now taken a dark turn, and they threatened not only her relationships but the very fabric of the kingdom. That same evening, a grand supper was scheduled in the palace. Isabella, fully aware of Leo's whereabouts and his need to pass by her room, hatched a sinister plan. She stripped herself and, as Leo approached, she screamed as loudly as she could. Startled and concerned for her safety, Leo immediately rushed to her room. But as he kicked the door open, he found Lady Isabella unclothed, pretending to be distressed. Before he could even react, she let out another piercing scream, this time accusing him of breaking into her room. The palace guards, alerted by Isabella's cries, arrived swiftly. Isabella, who had effectively manipulated the situation to make it appear as if Leo was the intruder, pointed an accusing finger at him and claimed that he had invaded her privacy. Leo, shocked and unable to explain the true events, was seized by the guards and forcibly removed from the palace. The guards had believed Isabella's accusations without question, and the kingdom's perception of Leo had taken a dark turn. As Leo was banished from the palace, the unity and peace that had been so hard to achieve crumbled once more. The kingdom of Viridian was thrown into chaos and turmoil, torn between the word of a beloved princess and the actions of a beggar boy who had been cast out. Princess Ilara, torn between her loyalty to Leo and her friendship with Lady Isabella, found herself in a heart-wrenching predicament. She knew that the truth needed to be uncovered, but the palace was now filled with mistrust, anger, and suspicion. The kingdom of Viridian, which had once stood on the verge of unity and prosperity, was now faced with a crisis that threatened to tear it apart. The fate of Leo, Princess Ilara, and the entire royal family was now deeply entangled with the choices they would make in the midst of this painful deception.